Rancho, yes sir, yes sir. Rancho, man. Tech now. In terms of points per game, the Texans are ranked 13th in the league in points per game. They average 22.2 points per game, and it has been trending up. Now for the Browns, they're ranked 10th in points per game. They average 23.3 points per game. That's trending up. Now total offense, the Texans are ranked 12th in the league, and they average 342.2 yards per game, but it's trending down. Meanwhile, the Browns are ranked 16th, which is middle of the pack in terms of total offense, and they average 335.9 yards per game, but it's trending up. Rush offense, Texans are ranked 22nd in the league. They average 96.9 yards per game, and it's trending down. A lot of it had to do with Damian Pierce being on and off, being injured. They had Devin Singletary. He showed some flashes as well. The Browns are ranked 12th in the league in rushing. They average 118.6 yards per game, but it's trending down for both teams. Now, pass offense. Texans they're ranked 7th in pass offense. They average 245.5 yards per game. It's trending down. Browns are ranked 19th. They average 217.2 yards per game, but it's trending up. Why? Because it's locked up, right? From the starter. Now, scoring defense. This is a little surprising. Texans are ranked 11th in scoring defense. And they allow 20.8 points per game, and it's trending up. Meanwhile, the Browns, believe it or not, they're ranked 13th in scoring defense. And people thought they were top 2, but they allow 21.3 points per game, but it's trending down. It's interesting. Because of the scoring defense. Total defense, Texans are ranked 14th. It's trending up. They allow 330.7 yards per game. The Browns are ranked number 1 in the league in total defense. They allow 270.2 yards per game, but it's trending down. Rush defense. Texans are ranked number 6 in the league in rush defense. They allow 96.6 yards per game, but it's trending down. The Browns are number 11th in rush defense. They allow 105.5 yards per game, but it's trending down because they've been allowing some rush yards over the past few games. Pass defense, Texans ranked 23rd. This is probably one of the biggest weaknesses. They allow 234.1 yards per game, but they've been getting better in terms of the pass defense. The Browns are ranked number 1 in the league in pass defense. They allow 164.7 pass yards per game, but it's trending down. Turnover margin, now this is interesting. Texans are ranked 5th in the league in turnover margin at 0.6. Browns, they're ranked 25th in the league in turnover margin at negative 0.5. That's huge. And it's trending down for Browns. That means they're averaging more turnovers compared to the Texans. Exactly, compared to what the Texans are trending up in terms of their turnover margin. Penalties per game. It's pretty much even. Texans are ranked 29th in the league in penalties per game, which is horrible. It's trending down. The Browns are ranked 30th in the league in penalties, but they're trending up. They're averaging 1 penalty less per game. Ranked 30th in the league, which is about equal. That being said, with this matchup, Shaun, I'm going to start off with you. What are you looking forward to in this matchup? And who are your X factors and who do you believe is going to win?
What I'm looking forward to most with this matchup, first off, let me say I wish it was Deshaun Watson playing this game. I mean, talk about theater, right? Playing against your old team in the playoffs with a chance to knock them out. Can't get you better than that. But what I'm looking forward to this game is I want to see if C.J. Stroud can continue to poise in the pocket that he's been displaying. Because now the playoff time is here. Last week, I believe the Colts, I believe that was like a playoff game. So he's shown that he can be poised under crucial moments. Tank Dell is out. That's big. Still got what's the wide receiver's name?
Nico Collins, former Michigan receiver.
Robert Woods. Is Robert Woods back?
Yes, he is back. He practiced today. I did some research on this game. It's the only game I had time to do research on before the show, but I did do some research extensively on this game.
Okay. So that's what I'm looking for. CJ Stroud does have his weapons. You have an experienced wide receiver now, Robert Woods coming back, and you have Nico Collins, and you have Collins. So
they got Schultz, right? At tight end.
Yes, they have Schultz, former Cowboys, who's been reliable. Honestly, who's been really like their most like reliable receiver. When it comes to short yardage throws. So I want to see if CJ Stroud can continue to poise. I want to see if D'Amico Ryans can continue to coach the way he's been coaching, doing an excellent job. So my X factor in this game is, of course, going to be the quarterback. I definitely want to see what CJ Stroud is going to accomplish it on defense. Defense to keep the X factor is Myles Garrett. The X factor to me is really the whole line, the whole D line of the Browns. Because if I'm not mistaken, Manuel, doesn't the Houston Texans have the top 10 offensive line in the league? Correct?
Some of the Texans?
Yes.
Yes,
they have a top 10 offensive line. So it's not going to be as easy to generate pressure as you may think. So So my X factor, honestly, is going to be the D line because, as you said, Emmanuel, they're number one in pass defense. They're number one. So I think CJ Stroud's going to have a tough day out there, but I want to see if he can continue to poise and try to pull it off.
I actually think he could pull it off because George Fant, he missed week 18. He is going to be back at right tackle this week. So Stroud will have the healthiest offensive line he's had in a few weeks. Now, he's not going to have guys like Kenyon Green and Titus Howard, their 2 first-round linemen. Green got injured in the preseason, and Howard got injured before the Week 16 game in Week 13. But he'll have Fant, who took the right tackle job from Howard after Green got injured when they moved Howard to left guard. Juice Scruggs has done nicely at left guard. Michael Dieter's found a home at center. So they'll have him. They'll have Shaq Mason, Tunsil. Yeah, so the Texans will have most of their core on the offensive line back. And I'm going to give you a reason why I'm taking why I'm leaning towards the Texans over the Browns. It's not final yet. I have the site loaded. I do have the first pickup, but I'm going to give you a reason why I'm leaning Houston. Even with Houston's 3 best edge rushers injured, not practicing for the second day in a row, did you know in Week 18, the top 2 of the top 3 defensive players on the Texans were their backup edge rushers? Majai Sanders, former Cincinnati edge, who was a 3rd-round pick who got cut by the Cardinals, and they also have Derek Barnett, the Eagles' 1st-round pick. Those guys were number 1 and number 3 on the Texans' defense in Pro Football Focus last week. Their linebackers are healthy. The defensive tackles are healthy. Perriman, Blake Cashman, Christian Harris, Malik Collins, and Sheldon Rankins are healthy. Desmond King has replaced Tavier Thomas, who got placed on IR in Week 15 after the Texans cut Desmond King at the beginning of the year. And the Texans have had some safety turnover. Jimmy Ward's injured. MJ Stewart's injured. Eric Murray's injured. So your starting strong safety, your backup free safety, your backup strong safety are all injured. You move Jalen Petir over to strong safety, but Daniel Houston Carlson had the highest Pro Football Focus grade of any Texans player on that entire secondary. And many would argue he's the worst when you consider that Steven Nelson, Stingley, and Jalen Petir are the 3 regular starters from last year's team. So many would argue that Houston Carlson is the worst of that group, but he had the best individual game against the Colts. So if he can play like that against the Browns, I mean, I honestly think the Texans can steal this game, but it's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be one of those games where Stroud has to bring everything, and he literally has to dominate the majority of the game, like he did against the Bengals, like he did against the Steelers. But he's 2-1 against AFC North teams, and could improve to 3-1 against AFC North teams on the year after this game. So I'm leaning Houston early, but this is easily the toughest AFC game to pick. Stay tuned. At the end, I will spin the wheel. I created a wheel of news for Saturday's podcast, but I also created a wheel that says which NFL team will receive dry cornbread for the playoffs. So we'll spin the wheel at the end of the show. How's that sound?
Oh man. Honestly, call me crazy. I agree with you, Chris. I'm leaning towards Texas to win this game. I'm leaning towards it because I believe the Browns' pass defense is trending down. It's allowing a lot of passing yards. But the problem I have with Texas is their penalties per game is not great. They have to play a little more disciplined in terms of the penalty-wise. The turnover margin is a huge difference between both of these teams, Shaun. It's a huge difference. Just me looking at it, I'm like, wow. If the Texans are able to minimize the turnovers and the defense able to force stops or get turnovers and convert those into some points, I think the Texans defense is going to play big in this game. I got Houston winning this game by at least 3 to 4 points, folks. Ooh.
Now, I've got the Texans by a field goal right now. I'll reveal my full score on Saturday's podcast. Majority of our staff is leaning towards the Browns at the moment. The Browns are getting Grant Delpit and Juan Thornhill back from injuries. Tony Fields is expected to play for Antoine Walker Jr., who's got placed on IR prior to week 17 or week 18 at middle linebacker. But the reason I leaning towards Houston is even though the Browns are number one in pass defense, the Ravens have only given up 21 passing touchdowns all year, which is best in the NFL. The Browns have surrendered. The Browns were at 40 prior to week 18, and that number's gone up to 42, 43. So even though the Browns are the fewest passing yards allowed all season, they have double the amount of passing touchdowns surrendered compared to the Baltimore Ravens, the top seed in the AFC and your favorite team, Emmanuel. So that is why I like the Texans over the Browns right now at the moment.
Give me the Browns. Joey Flack. Joey Flack, man. And Joey Flack, I trust. When the time comes, this man has been here. He's done it. Look, this is the same man that played against safeties like Troy Polamalu and Eddie Reed. These new safeties just tweaked to him. This ain't no thing. I'm going the Browns by a touchdown.
Okay. So we got some disagreement here. Okay.
That's good, though. Flacco's second all-time in playoff wins among quarterbacks. There was a Facebook thing this afternoon where they compared every quarterback's career playoff wins. You got 4 QBs with less playoff wins than Tim Tebow, but in their defense, 3 of those quarterbacks, Tua, Jordan Love, and Stroud, are entering their first ever playoff game, I believe. And then you look at, outside of that, you got to look at the next, and Mason Rudolph, too. Mason Rudolph also entering his first playoff game, but all 4 of those guys, we'll get to those guys later, but Joe Flacco's at 10 playoff wins in his career. Mahomes is at 11. So if the Browns win the next 2 games, which I think is very unlikely, and Mahomes loses to the Dolphins, which we're going to get to in a few minutes, it's theoretically possible, but extremely unlikely that Flacco passes Mahomes in career playoff wins. Not very likely, but it is theoretically possible. So just wanted to add that wrinkle into this conversation before we pivot to the next game.
Over this telling the tape of statistics. The Chiefs, the 3 seed, Dolphins are the 6 seed. The Chiefs, they're ranked 15th in the league in points per game. They average 21.8 points per game, which is trending down. The Dolphins, they're ranked number 2 in the league in points per game. They average 29.2 points per game, but they have been trending down the last 3 games. Total offense. Chiefs are ranked number 9, surprisingly. Average 351.3 yards per game. Dolphins ranked number 1 in the league in total offense. They average 401.3 yards per game, but both of these teams' total offenses are trending down. Rush offense. The Chiefs, they're ranked 19th. They average 104.9 rush yards per game, but it's trending up. It's somewhat equal. It's been equal in the past 3 weeks. Dolphins are ranked 6th in the league in rushing. We're at 135.8 rush yards per game, but it's been trending down. Pass offense. The Chiefs are ranked 6th in the league in passing yards. They average 246.4 pass yards per game, but it's been trending down. Dolphins are ranked number 1 in the league in pass offense. They average 265.5 yards per game. That's been trending down. Both of these teams' pass offenses have been trending down. Scoring defense. The Chiefs are ranked number 2 in the league in scoring defense, right behind Baltimore. Chiefs, they allow 17.3 points per game. It's been trending up. Dolphins are ranked 22nd in the league in scoring defense. They allow 23 points per game, and it's been trending down because they've allowed about close to 30 a game the last 3 games. Total defense. Chiefs are ranked 2nd. They average 289.8 yards per game they allow. Dolphins are ranked 10th in total defense. They allow 318.3 yards per game. It's trending down. Rush defense. Chiefs are ranked 18th. This could be a weakness. They allow 113.2 rush yards per game, but it's trending down. They allow a lot of rush yards. Dolphins are ranked 7th in the league in rush defense. They allow 97.1 rush yards per game, but it's trending down. Pass defense. The Chiefs are 4th in the league in pass defense. They allow 176.5 pass yards per game. It's been trending up. Dolphins, they're ranked 15th in the league in pass defense. It's obviously middle of the pack. They allow 221.2 yards per game, and it's also trending down. Turnover margin. Oof. Chiefs are bottom 4, 28th in the league in turnover margin at negative 0.6, and it's trending down. It's negative 1 the last 3 games, over negative 1.2 or 3 the last 3 games. The Dolphins are ranked 2nd in the league, no, not 2nd, 12th in the league in turnover margin at positive 0.1, but it's trending down closer to the it's really neutral. They've been really neutral the last 3 games, which is cool. As long as they're not a negative, it's cool. They've been neutral. This is at 0. Penalties per game. Chiefs are ranked 14th in the league in fewest penalties per game. They average 5.6 penalties per game, but it has been trending up in a positive way because the last 2 games have been averaging less than 3 penalties a game, which is a great improvement. Same with the Dolphins, ranked 16th in the league in fewest penalties per game. They average 5.7 penalties per game. 1 less penalty from KC over the last 3 games. So the Dolphins have basically averaged 2.5 penalties per game. So it's been trending up for both of these teams. But what's glaring to me is the Chiefs' rush defense has been trending down big time based on the numbers, and the turnover margin is a concern for the Chiefs and the rush defense. But for the Dolphins, it's their scoring defense allowing a lot of points, and their pass defense is concerning as well. In terms with that, and their turnover, and so yeah, that's basically it for the Chiefs. Now, Chris, I have to put this stat up here. I don't know if you guys heard this stat. Do you guys know Tua in 45-degree weather or less? Tua is 0-4 as a quarterback.
Yeah, that's amazing. I got the coldest game he played in his press conference today And I didn't give you any officiating information on the last game, but it's Clay Martin, the guy who called the Browns playoff loss to the Chiefs. He's calling the Browns-Texans game this week. And this week's official for this game is Brad Rogers. Dolphins are 1-2 in games officiated by Brad Rogers. The Chiefs are 3-0 in those games with only one penalty for 15 yards. 0 penalties in 2 games against the Jaguars and Broncos and 1 penalty for 15 yards in the third game. So not only is this Brad Rogers' first playoff game, it's a subtle, let's plant the seed of, oh, it's Brad Rogers' first playoff game, but he's penalized the Chiefs fewer times than any other team in the entire league. Every other team has at least 2 penalties. And that's sneaky by the NFL because you'd think the Chiefs would get a good official like a Torbert or a Sheffers, but they plant the seed of, oh, we're gonna go with Brad Rogers. It's his first playoff game. He'll call a fair and clean game, guys. Yeah, I did the research like Bernie Mac. You're not fooling me, NFL.
So, what are you looking forward to the game? X factors and obviously your prediction.
Is anyone taking the Dolphins? Because I'll let them speak first before I make my case for the Chiefs. Not just the weather and the officiating or the injuries. I got more to say, but I'm going to let anyone who's got the Dolphins winning to speak.
No, I don't. I don't have the Dolphins.
Neither do I. Shaun?
Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to take it out of Tua's hands. What did you say about the rushing? Emmanuel is trending up. It's trending up.
Well, I said the Chiefs' rush defense has been trending down. So it does benefit the Dolphins, and I feel like that's the whole that the Dolphins just have to win that way.
The Dolphins did get Robert Hunt back at right guard last week. Robert Hunt, the Dolphins' right guard, who's number 6 in the NFL on Pro Football Focus this year, 9th in the NFL last year, he did return from injured reserve in Week 18. Very subtle thing, but very key statistic because they're best interior linemen.
And I think they bought him off. He's active for a reason now. They're going to run the football ground and pound. Then when you least expect it, and I'm telling you this, the wide receivers more for Miami than I do for the Chiefs. I don't know what's going on with my man Travis Kelce. Might be the curse of Taylor Swift. I don't know. They looking the same. We already know what's going on with the wide receivers from the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes himself hasn't really been playing good football this year as well. Trying to do too much, trying to overcompensate for his wide receivers' mistakes. And I think this Dolphins team kind of wants to shut the narrative off that, hey, number one, we can beat good teams. Number two, we can play in cold weather. So I think that the Dolphins are going to go in there with a game plan. They're going to use Raheem Mostert. They're going to run the football ground and pound. Maybe use some motion plays to kind of get Kansas City on their heels. Move Tyreek. Hopefully Jalen Waddle returns. And then everybody goes out and play ball. But I am thinking the Miami Dolphins in the upset on the road.
Chris,
on the road.
Ooh.
And Arrowhead. Yep, I said it.
Ooh. Is there an update with Jalen Waddle? Has he been practicing?
Waddle is expected to play despite not practicing. That's what I've heard. The 2 players that are injured on the Dolphins' offensive line are Isaiah Wynn at left guard and Connor Williams at center. Neither one of those guys is expected to be back. Bradley Chubb's out for the year. So is Jalen Phillips. So is the third edge rusher that's good, Andrew Van Ginkel. They got a bunch of journeymen, Bruce Irvin, Justin Houston, who are going to have to learn the system in days. You have Jerome Baker out for the year, Dolphins' best inside linebacker, and Xavier Howard, who's been the number 1 corner for many years, more familiar with the system than Jalen Ramsey, despite the fact that Ramsey's outplayed him since making his debut with the Dolphins later this year. And you do have the safety duo of Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones. You do have Javon Holland. I think those guys can limit Kelsey, but I also feel like the Chiefs, as long as Mahomes avoids turnovers, he's going to throw for more passing yards than Tua. And I think that is really what this game is going to come down to, especially with the running, especially with the snow. And I think Pacheco can get 100 on this defense. I do. Because even though Miami's interior line with Wilkins, Zach Seiler, Raquan Davis is decent, this Chiefs interior offensive line, Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith is just better. And they can neutralize that area of the Dolphins defense. And that's big because that's the heart of Miami's defense right now with their edge rushers and their best inside linebacker injured. That's the heart of the front seven right now, Emmanuel. And that's probably why I'm leaning Kansas City at the moment. And I don't have a score yet up on the site, but I am leaning Kansas City for that reason. I'm leaning Kansas City for the weather. We're looking at anything from negative 10 to 10 degrees and winds from 10 to 15 miles an hour. So, and Tua's coldest game was in Alaska, where it was 20 degrees during his senior year of high school when Hawaii played Alaska in a football game. So, that's the coldest game he played in, and he's 0-4 in games where it's below 40 degrees. This would be the coldest game by far that he's ever played in. And so not only do the Chiefs have the weather advantage, they have the officiating advantage because, like I told you earlier, Dolphins are 1-2 in games by Brad Rodgers. Chiefs are 3-0. I think Rodgers is actually going to call a cleaner game than the experts think. But if the Dolphins gain a lead at any point and it's the fourth quarter, he's going to start calling shady calls on the Dolphins. That's just what I feel like, to make sure the Chiefs go to overtime, and then it'll be a best team win in overtime type thing. And I think the Chiefs would win in that scenario, even though the Dolphins do have the star receivers to make this interesting if Tua can avoid turnovers.
Honestly, I'm not mistaken. I think the Dolphins defense have trouble guarding tight ends. I think Kelsey's going to have a big day on offense. It wouldn't shock me if Kelsey gets 2 touchdowns in this game, especially with Chubb and you mentioned Phillips being out. If Chubb and Phillips were healthy and Miami was at home, I'll probably give the edge to Miami. But they're playing. Tua is not built for the cold. I have to go Kansas City in this game to win against the Dolphins.
The Dolphins have the receivers to beat the Chiefs. Everybody on the Chiefs is healthy. Nick Bolton, the Chiefs' best linebacker, was out from weeks 12 to 15. He got injured multiple times this year, but he's been healthy the last 4 weeks. And Brian Cook, who got injured against the Packers in week 12 or 13, he returned in week 17. The Chiefs' defense has been fully healthy the last 2 weeks, 0 injuries. So you're going to see more of the Chiefs' defense that you saw at the beginning of the year before Bolton's injury, because in all 5 games where the Chiefs' top 11 starters were healthy, they held their opponents to 20 points or less in each game, going 4-1 in those games against the Lions, the Vikings, Broncos, the Bengals, and the Chargers. And let's face it, when all 11 of their best starters are fully healthy, no injuries, this is a top 5 defense in the league, Emmanuel. It is. That's just how they are. Despite what the pass defense and run defense numbers say, when their defense has 0 injuries, this team is a tough out. You literally have to outscore Mahomes and win the turnover battle just to have a snowball's chance.
Last game for the AFC side, which is the Bills versus the Steelers. The Bills are 2 seed, the Steelers are the 7th seed. The Bills, the number 6 in the league in points per game. They average 26.5 points per game, but they've been trending down. The Steelers are ranked 28th in the league in points per game, which is bottom 4 in the league in points scored. They average 17.9 points per game, but they've been trending up. Total offense. Bills are ranked 4th in the league in total offense. They average 374.5 yards per game, but they've been trending down. Steelers are ranked 25th, which is bottom 7 in the league. They average 304.3 yards per game. They've been trending up. Rush offense. The Bills are ranked 7th in the league in rush offense. They average 130.1 yards per game, but they've been trending down. Steelers are ranked 13th in the league in rush offense. They average 118.2 rush yards per game, but they've been trending up. Pass offense. The Bills are ranked 8th in the league in passing. They average 244.4 yards per game, but they've been trending down. Steelers are ranked 25th, which is, again, bottom 7 in the league in pass offense. They average 186.1 pass yards per game, but they've been trending up. Scoring defense. The scoring defense. I don't even think the ranking on here. Well, let's go to the Steelers. The Steelers are ranked 6th in the league in scoring defense. They average 19.1. They allow 19.1 points per game, but they've been trending up. Now, let's go to the scoring. We get back to that. Hold on, good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Buffalo's ranked 4th in the league in scoring defense. They allow 18.3 points per game, but they've been trending down. They've been averaging allowing one more point per game. Total defense. The Bills are ranked 9th in the league in total defense. They allow 307.2 total yards per game, but they've been trending up. The Steelers, they're ranked 21st in the league in total defense. They allow 342.1 yards per game, but they've been trending up. Rush defense. The Bills are ranked 15th in the league in rush defense. They allow 110.6 rush yards per game, but they've been trending up in a positive direction. Steelers, they're ranked 19th in the league in rush defense. They allow 115.1 rush yards per game, but in the last 3 games, they've been number 1 in the league in rush defense, the Steelers. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Pass defense. The Bills are ranked 7th in the league in pass defense. They allow 196.6 pass yards per game, but they've been trending up. Steelers are ranked 17th in the league in pass defense. They allow 227.1 passing yards per game, but they've been trending down a lot more. Turnover margin. Bills are ranked 12th. They're at plus 0.1, but they've been trending down at -1. The Steelers are ranked 3rd in the league in turnover margin at 0.6, and they've been trending up. That's 8. Penalties per game. The Bills are ranked 26th in the league in penalties per game. That is bottom 6 in the league. But they've been getting better at the penalties per game, so they're trending up in a positive direction. The Steelers, they're ranked 6th in the league in fewest penalties per game. They average 5.1 penalties per game. But the last 3 games for the Steelers are ranked number 1 in fewest penalties per game. Keep that in mind. Maybe that's the reason why they made the playoffs, right?
Yep.
that and their turnover margins could be the difference. Because with the Steelers, basically the stats are saying, the Steelers don't score a lot of points, but they play pretty disciplined football. So you have to credit Mike Tomlin for this, right? You have to give credit to Mike Tomlin, who's emphasized it, continue to have winning seasons for Pittsburgh. Yeah. And that shows the testament of what the Steelers are in terms of the stability with that franchise. Now with this, my X factor for this game, I'm gonna go with Gabe Davis. Gabriel Davis. I know everyone's going to get to Gabriel Davis and James Cook. I'm to the factor. I can't even go Dalton Kincaid, the rookie tight end. With him and Knox in there, too. He's the X factor. So I'm going to have Gabe Davis as my X factor. I'm going to have, a big game against the Chiefs. We were on that shootout a couple years ago. AD was just falling like crazy. I was have the Bills win this game, honestly. But if the Bills were to turn the ball over and they have this team with a lot of penalties, this is going to put the game right back into Steelers' hands. My personal opinion, I think the Bills are going to win pretty convincingly. Chris, what are your thoughts? What would you look for in this game?
Yeah, I was about to declare this game a lock, but one of the staff members at Draft Utopia just texted me they're picking the Steelers. So this will be this. I thought last week would be the first week in the year where there were no locks, but Jason, who was originally leaning at Atlanta, Jason was originally leaning Atlanta. I think he picked New Orleans at the last minute, so New Orleans ended up being the only lock. But this will be the first week with no locks officially, but like my older brother think the Bills are going to win, and they're Steeler fans. Like I had a conversation with them today because it's my birthday as well as my mom's, so we did have a conversation over the phone about the playoff games. Yep. Happy birthday to my mom. She's 56 years young. Born in 1956. She's 56 years young. That's the joke my brother made. We're going with it. I think that's awesome. So I know it's not mathematically correct, but also my friend Thomas Coburn, he's a Bills fan. Wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour. Amanda, who's a Steeler fan who follows me on Twitter, is going to this game in Buffalo. And Julie, who I used to do the morning announcements with in high school, Steeler fan, now a sideline reporter for the Bills, is going to probably have to cover this game, hopefully in the press box. But if she's on the sideline, I do have sympathy for her. But, looking at the 40-degree wind gusts, according to Thomas Coburn, friend of mine who's a Bills fan. So we're looking at 40-degree wind gusts. I just don't know how the Steelers can win this game. Maybe if Allen has 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and Mason Rudolph has no turnovers, it's a 7-point game. But that's if Mason Rudolph has a good game. Because Carl Sheffers is officiating this game, and we both know that Carl Sheffers and the Bills do not have good history. He did call last year's Bills-Bengals game. So that's why I feel like the Steelers have a landslide chance of covering the spread, but I still think Buffalo just has too much talent on both sides of the ball that Carl Sheffers officiating really won't matter at the end of the day. I'm so confident the Bills winning that I will dunk my face in a terrible towel with dry cornbread on it if the Steelers pull the upset. That is how confident I am in Mike Tomlin losing this game. And I know Myron Cope is laughing at me from beyond the grave because he wants to see the Steelers win. He wants to see me dunk my face in a terrible towel with dry cornbread on it, like a dare challenge, because I'm that confident that the Bills are going to win. So I don't think I need to give away a final score. I'm that confident. Is anyone else in this group that confident in the Bills, or
I am. Before we get my take, they say Mason Rudolph is the same guy that Nas Garrett did to help me win.
Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing more I need to say. Bills will not lose. All of us agree. For the first time.
Except for Oren, my vice president at Draft Utopia, who took the Steelers. But yeah, there's no TJ Watt, 40-degree wind. I just don't see how the Steelers can win this game. Maybe they cover if Allen has a bad day like he did against the Dolphins and Mason plays turnover-free ball. But I still think the Bills would win, but the Steelers would cover the spread in that scenario. And that's really the one scenario where I could see the Steelers covering the point spread, which is about 7.5, depending on who you ask. Some have it as high as 10. Oh, I got the Cowboys point spread mixed up with the Bills. I apologize for that. The point spread's around 10 points. So, yeah. Basically, Mason Rudolph has to play perfect, and Josh Allen has to play as badly as the Dolphins. And even if that happens, I just think the Steelers would still lose, but they'd cover the spread and lose by single digits. Because the Bills are just that much better than the Steelers. Yeah, you're going to have to poison him with the dry cornbread terrible towel. You're going to have to. That's the only way you can win this game. The Terrible Towel 2.0 Dry Cornbread Edition. Order it at SteelersShop.com. We got to get to the NFC, though.
Okay. All right, now we're towards the NFC. The first game, we have the Cowboys versus the Packers. Cowboys 2 seed, Packers 7 seed. We have a new update in terms of points per game for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are actually ranked number 1 in the league in points per game. They surpassed the Dolphins. Wow. The Cowboys are number 1 in the league in points per game. But they've been down the last 3. Now for the Packers. They're ranked 12th in the league in points per game. They average 22.5 points per game. But it's trending up. That's the key. Cowboys points per game is trending down. Cowboys are just averaging right below 30 points per game. That's 29.9 points per game. Total offense. Cowboys are ranked number 5th in the league in total offense. They're trending up on this. They average 371.6 yards per game. The Packers, they average they're ranked 11th in the league in total offense. They're averaging 345.5 yards per game, and they're trending up. Rush offense, the Cowboys are ranked 9th in the league in rushing. They average 112.9 rush yards per game, but they're trending down. The Packers are ranked 10th in the league in rush offense, just right below the Cowboys at 112.1. But the difference is this: Cowboys are trending down, the Packers are trending up. Keep that in mind. Pass offense. The Cowboys are ranked 3rd in the league in passing. They average 258.6 passing yards per game, but they're trending up. But also, who else is trending up? Packers. They're ranked 12th in the league in passing. They average 233.4 yards per game. Passing yards per game, but they're trending up. Scoring defense. The Cowboys are ranked 5th in the league in scoring defense. They're allowing 18.5 points per game, but they're trending up. Who else is trending up? Packers. Packers are ranked number 10th in the league in scoring defense with about 20.6 points per game. They're trending up. Now this is interesting. Total defense. Cowboys are ranked 5th. They're just below. They're allowing 300 yards per game. Total yards, 299.7. They're trending down. The Packers are middle of the pack in total defense. They allow the rate 17, 335.1 yards per game, but they're trending up. Rush defense. The Cowboys are ranked 16th in the league in rush defense. They allow 112.4 yards per game, but they're trending up. But I'll put a note here. The last 3 games, the Cowboys have been top 5 in rush defense in the NFL. But who else is trending up? Packers. Even though the Packers are ranked 28th in the league in rush defense, they allow 128.3 rush yards per game, but they're trending up. But the last 3 games, the Packers have been top 2 in rush defense. So they're tightening it up. Pass defense. The Cowboys are ranked 5th in the league in pass defense. They allow 187.4 pass yards per game, but they're trending down. Who's trending up? Packers. They're 9th in the league in pass defense. They're allowing 206.8 passing yards per game. They're trending up. Turnover margin. This is interesting. Cowboys are ranked 5th in the league in turnover margin at 0.6. The problem is they've been close to the negative. They're trending down. Packers are ranked in the middle of the pack, 16th turnover margin at neutral at 0. Penalties per game. This could be the story, folks. The Cowboys are bottom 3 in the 27 in the league. They average 6.2 points per game. So basically, it's this. The story could be this. Turnover margins and the penalties per game could be the difference between the Packers and Cowboys. But notice what I said, Shaun, on the Packers side. Almost all of their statistical categories are trending up. Right?
Yeah.
All of you have noticed that. Packers, majority of them are trending up. The Cowboys is more up, down, up, down, up, down.
Packers have been playing some real good football the last 3-4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, agreed. Now, Shaun, what are you looking forward to in this matchup for the Packers?
Oh, man. You know what? Love is a crazy thing, fellas. Love can make you do crazy things. Love is blind. Love can make you choke. Love can make you sweat. Love can even make you do things that you never even thought you could do. And that's what I'm looking forward to for that game, is the joy of love. Because I'm going to tell you guys something right now. This Packers team is young, and this Packers team is naive. And when I say naive, when I mean naive, is they're naive in a good way, to the point to where they can just go out and play ball. There's pressure on Dallas. Dallas is expected to make football. Green Bay is going in with house money. Nobody's expecting them to do nothing. And I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm gonna tell you something else. You still have experienced vets on the defensive side of the ball. You have Smith, Jair Williams. Be on the lookout for that matchup between Jair Williams and CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's been hot. CeeDee Lamb's been hot the last month of the season. Jair Williams is a damn good corner, one of the best in the league. He was suspended the last game of the season, but he's going to come back and he's going to make a difference, and he travels. He doesn't just stay on one side of the field. He likes to travel. So this game, if the Dallas Cowboys don't be careful, this game could get dangerously close, uncomfortably close to the point to where we see the Dallas Cowboys fold. And you don't want to lose to a Green Bay Packers team who's already their first year starter quarterback is Jordan Love. So for the Packers, key point for me is Jordan Love and the Green Bay defense. And let's not forget Aaron Jones as well, who can run that football, which is one thing that Dallas has a problem stopping, is the run. So let's not forget about that as well. And on Dallas's AJ Dillon, he's AJ Dillon is a wrecking ball. So and then after that, and then on Dallas side, what I'm looking for is I want to see the defense show up. This is an inexperienced offense. You have a quarterback who started his first ever playoff game. Micah Parsons, Stephon Gilmore, all these guys out there, they need to go hunt. The defense should have a hell of a day out there against the Packers. A hell of a day. That should be what stands out in that game.
Okay. Chris, what are you looking forward to seeing for X Factors this week?
I'm looking at Dallas. I think Dallas with a fully healthy offense, Eric Stokes out for the Packers. I really like Dallas in this game. I think CeeDee Lamb, if Jair Alexander does not in the zone, I think CeeDee Lamb, just too much momentum right now. He will just incinerate this Green Bay secondary. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, what's going to happen here? Because I look at Brandon Cooks. I look at the whole Dallas depth chart. Gallup. You have Gallup. You have Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson. Just a lot of weapons all over the board in terms of skill, in terms of talent, in terms of ability. Yep, Turpin. And you have Pollard. You have the rookie, Kansas State, Deuce Vaughn is the backup. Just a lot of talent everywhere. And, I'm looking at a lot of different factors when it comes to assessing this game. So 475 penalties allowed in 10 games. That's this is the Packers under Ron Torbert, by the way. Emmanuel said the Cowboys are in the bottom 3 in penalty yards allowed. So I compiled every game Ron Torbert officiated from his time as the official. He averaged 8 penalties a game in 10 contests because Ron Torbert's called 10 Packers games as a referee since taking over from side judge to referee. The Packers have averaged 8 penalties per game in those 10 contests. Also averaged 475 yards a game. There have been games where they've given up 8 to 10 penalties for 80 yards. There's also games where the Packers have given up as many as 25, 47 yards when they play clean. They play disciplined. So you're looking at the Packers giving up 475 yards in penalties in 10 contests, averaging 8 penalties a game, which comes out to 8 penalties for 48 yards per game, which is a pretty significant number because if Dallas limits their penalty average to 5 or 6 per game, then Dallas should win if Green Bay gets penalized 8 times. Dallas should win if Green Bay gets penalized 8 times. So I just think that's an interesting tidbit that the Packers average more penalties per game under Ron Torbert than the Cowboys have averaged all season. So I do think this will be a fairly officiated game in the first half, but I could also see if it's close in the fourth quarter and Dallas needs the yards and the points to catch up, I could see them getting the bailout from Torbert given his history of committing penalties with the Packers. So just something to keep an eye on. But looking at the Dallas Cowboys, they do have Micah Parsons. They do have DeMarcus Lawrence. Packers don't have Bakhtiari. I don't think Jordan Love is going to have as much time as usual. There are some people on the site that are going to pick the Packers to beat Dallas. I know at least one person's taking the Packers. We have another Packer fan on the site, so they might pick Green Bay over Dallas just for shock value. But I just think Dallas, at the end of the day, I think Dallas is the better team, and I like them. I'm leaning 31-17 is my projected score, but I got to do more research on this game before I lock that in. He was available for the first 3 games of the year, and then he got placed on IR. He did. He was healthy the year the Packers had the 1 seed. When he was healthy, the Packers had the 1 seed, but then he got injured in 2022. He got injured after the first 3 games, and now it's at the point where, he's a liability as far as his health goes. So, I've tried to be objective because when he was at his peak, he was a Pro Bowl tackle when he's at his peak, but unfortunately, that just hasn't been the case in recent years. I think we're at the point where the Packers are ready to move on from Bakhtiari the way Pat McAfee's ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers, but we're not opening up that can of worms right now. But I do like the Cowboys by 2 touchdowns. Okay. 31-20.
Oh, I think we have some breaking news on the NFL side.
What's up?
If I'm not mistaken, did the Chargers hire Leslie Frazier to become the head coach?
Oh boy, I heard they interviewed him. Let's see. I'm Googling Leslie Frazier right now. Chargers to interview Leslie Frazier. So he just came in for an interview, and he left the Bills on a temporary leave of absence to go to NFL Network. And he picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl, but he picked the Jets and Aaron Rodgers to win MVP, kind of to motivate the Bills. But here's the thing from Mike Garofalo. They have scheduled their interview with Leslie Frazier for Sunday. So I don't know if he's getting a second interview because it said He'd interview for the job. But what they didn't tell you, what the articles that are trying to clickbait you didn't tell you, is that the interview's taking place on Sunday. So it hasn't happened yet. But it has been logistically scheduled. See, this is why you follow the insiders like Garofalo and Rappaport and Pelissero and Schefter, because they'll give you the little details like that without having to click on the clickbait links that sites redirect you to. That's the game. That's Twitter. All right. I think we got 2 wild card games left for Super Wild Card Weekend. Next game is the Rams-Lions, the most expensive game. It is the $420 to get in, and you are not allowed to wear a Matthew Stafford Lions jersey. That is forbidden. Or is that a clickbait article? I hope it's not true. If that was true, there's so much backlash. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the Lions and Rams, Lions 3 seed, the Rams are the 6 seed. The Lions are ranked 5th in the league in points per game. They average 27.1 points per game, but they're trending down. The Rams are ranked number 8 in the league in points per game. They average 23.8 points per game, but they're trending up. Total offense. Lions are ranked 3rd in the league in total offense. They average 4.8 yards per game, and they're trending up. But the Rams are also trending up on this one. They're ranked 7th in the league in total offense. They average 259.8 yards per game. Rush offense. Lions are ranked 4th in the league in rushing. They average 135.9 yards per game. They're trending down. Same as the Rams. They're ranked 11th in the league in rushing. They average 120.3 rush yards per game. They're trending down. Passing offense. Lions are ranked 2nd. They average 258.9 pass yards per game, and they're trending up. Rams, they're ranked 10th in the league in pass offense. They average 239 pass yards per game, trending up. Now, scoring defense. The Lions, they're ranked 23rd in the league in scoring defense. They allow 23.2 points per game, but they're trending up. Rams are ranked 19th in the league in scoring defense. They allow 22.2 points per game, so they've been neutral the last 3. Total defense. The Lions are ranked 19th. They allow 336.1 yards per game, but they're trending down. Rams are ranked 20th in the league in total defense. They allow 337.9 yards per game, and they're also trending down. Rush defense. The Lions are number 2 in the league in rush defense. They allow 88.8 rush yards per game. They're trending up. And they've been number 1 in the league in rush defense the last 3 games. Now the Rams are ranked 12th in the league in rush defense. They allow 106.8 rush yards per game. But in the last 3 games, the Rams have been top 3 in the league in rush defense. Pass defense. The Lions are bottom 5 in the league in pass defense. They allow 247.4 passing yards per game, and they're trending down. They're allowing over 280 pass yards per game in the last 3. That's a huge concern. The Rams are ranked 20th in the league in pass defense. They allow 31.1 pass yards per game, but they're also trending down. Now, turnover margin. Lions are ranked 16th, and they're averaging basically neutral on the turnover margin, but they're also trending up. The problem with the Rams is they're ranked 21st in the league in turnover margin, and they're at minus 0.2, but they're also trending down. Now, penalties per game. The Lions are ranked middle of the pack at penalties per game, average 5.7, but they're trending down. The Rams are ranked number 8 in the league in fewest penalties per game. They average 5.2 penalties per game. In the last 3 games, they've been top 2 in the league in fewest penalties per game. Interesting.
Yep. This is toughest game to pick outside of the AFC game with the Browns and Texans because I felt like the Texans would win because I feel like their depth chart, along with the Craig Martin officiating and just Stroud clicking, gives them a slight edge. But with this game, it feels like a pick 'em because I'm studying Craig Rolstad, official for this game. The Lions have a better record than the Rams under Craig Rolstad. But here's the kicker. They've been penalized more times than the Lions. The Lions have had an average of 5 penalties for they've had 6, 8, and 3. So they've had 17 penalties for 145 yards in 3 games under Rolstad in the Dan Campbell era. I'm not going back past the Dan Campbell era because I don't think that's an accurate gauge of where this Lions team stands. And I think you'd agree with me on that. That's not an objective or accurate way to gauge how this game's going to go from an officiating standpoint. So I looked at what each team's been doing the last few years, and the Rams are only getting penalized 1 to 3 times in games unofficiated by Rolstad. Even the contests they lose, like they lost to Pittsburgh this year, and they were actually penalized fewer times than the Steelers at home against the Steelers. So that's why this feels like such a tough game to pick, because this could be a game where the Rams are lying. The team that wins is actually penalized more. If the other team just third down conversions, 4th down conversions, just finishes off scoring drives. And both teams have their best 11 on their depth charts from preseason to now. Both teams have their best 11 starters. Neither team has an injury on defense right now. So that could be subject to change. Maybe I need to double check my facts, but Lions got Lynn McNeil and C.J. Gardner-Johnson back in Week 18, so they have their best 11 players for the first time since Week 2. And I'm not counting Mosley because he got injured in training camp, then got injured again. And Jerry Jacobs has been much better this year compared to his first 2 years after going undrafted. So just looking at the research, but something tells me the Rams are going to win this, and I'm going to take the under. I for some reason, it's a Matthew Stafford revenge game. You've got this young, exciting offense, more experienced offense, and I think Dan Campbell's stubbornness to go for it on 4th down, like he did against the Cowboys, will ultimately be his downfall. I'm leaning towards a 2017 score for the Rams, and I'm taking the under. I don't know what the under is. I haven't done all the research yet, but I'm like the Rams in the under in this one. Because everyone expects it to be a shootout. I think it's going to be the under. Okay, so, all right, we'll probably go 27-23 Rams then, or maybe 27-21. If it's 51.5, maybe I'll go 28-21 or 30-21. I don't know. I know it's crazy, but I could honestly see the Rams winning 28-21 or 30-21. It should be closer than that, but Dan Campbell's stubborn enough not to kick a field goal, and I could see that being the Lions' undoing. I don't know. This is the toughest game, I think, of the 6 to pick.
I understand. For me, X factor. I think the X factor for the Lions to me is down before them.
If he got injured in Week 18, if he's playing, I probably would lean slightly towards Detroit. He's a long shot to play. I think he's going to be out. So.
I think you're right. Yeah. So I don't know. I think both running games are going to be canceled out. Truth be told.
I'm taking the under despite the momentum both offenses have, and both offenses have played fantastic down the stretch. But both defenses have 0 injuries, so I feel like we're going to get a slugfest when everybody expects a shootout, which is why I love the under this week.
For the Rams, I like Puka.
Yeah.
I like Puka. Puka as my X factor, and I have the Rams winning this game. I agree. Pretty good thoughts. About the gauge of the sports and X factor and what's your prediction?
Man, you know my X factor is going to be for the game? Jared Goff moment be too big for Mr. Jared Goff. Matthew Stafford has been here. He's been doing this for years. Who do you trust when it's time to make a sack? Who do you trust? They still have that man Aaron Donald on the other side of the ball. So at the end of the day, I believe that it's a nice story. Detroit versus everybody. We here. First playoff game in what 30 years at home, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a nice story. It's a beautiful thing. They're getting TJ Garner-Johnson back, who my Eagles missed yesterday. Who we'll get into in a moment, because I have a lot to say about them. But I'm definitely thinking the Rams for the upset. If people may not think it's an upset, many people think it's a big game. In my heart, I want to go for Detroit because I would like to see that. I would like to see them advance to the playoffs. But something's telling me that Sean McVay is going to outcoach them.
I think Goff wins the turnover battle, but at the same token, I think the Lions get penalized more, and I think the Rams gain the lead late in the game, and I think Goff's turnover comes on the final drive of the game. I have Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner strip sacking Goff. One of them strip sacks Goff, and the other recovers the fumble. That's how I think the game ends. And I'm taking the under. I liked your Aaron Donald prediction, so I'm going to one-up it by saying that Aaron Donald's first strip sack in what seems like forever occurs against the Lions on the final drive on a game where I think Goff actually outplays Stafford, as bold as that sounds. But the Lions get penalized more than the Rams. So, but I do like the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams 28-21.
The only reason why I think Goff will not play Stafford is because I think running game for Detroit is a little more explosive.
Yeah, and I like the Lions' offensive line better. I mean, Alaric Jackson did take the left tackle job from Joseph Noteboom. Even though the Rams' offensive lines played down the stretch, has been fully healthy, just like Detroit's. I think Detroit's offensive line gives them a little bit of an advantage, and Goff a little bit more time in the pocket. But to be fair to the Rams, Aiden Hutchinson's really the only pass rusher on that front four you have to worry about. But McNeil's back, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's back. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Lions' defense because they're bottom 5 in pass defense. So I think the Lions win the turnover battle, but the Rams get the turnover when it counts at the end of the game on a strip sack by Donald. And Kobe Turner has a fumble recovery in the playoffs. It's just that's how I have the game ending.
All right, you guys, we're going to the Bucks versus the Eagles. They're a 4 seed versus the Eagles. Let me go over these stats real quick from the Bucks. The Bucks, they're ranked 20th in the league in points per game. They average 20.5 points per game. They're trending down. The Eagles are ranked 7th in the league in points per game. So they average 25.5 points per game. So they're trending down. I think you know the story, Sean.
It's the Jesse Waters curse. So what happened is a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago, the Eagles were 10-1. They just came off a win against the Bills in overtime, and I was scrolling through the channels, and apparently I accidentally put on Fox News. So Jesse Waters declared the Eagles Super Bowl 58 champions after they beat the Bills, and the only game they've won since then is against the Giants on Christmas. And even in that victory, they failed to cover the spread. When I had them winning, I had them shutting out the Giants and the Cardinals, and they failed to cover the spread in both games, even though their offensive line's fully healthy. Their offense, but Devonta Smith's injured, A.J. Brown is injured. Even though the offensive line's healthy, your two best weapons are injured. So I honestly think Jesse Waters of Fox News may have cursed his Eagles when he declared them Super Bowl champions after we're talking about the Madden jinx. I think we might have our first victim of the Fox News jinx. So the Eagles are getting some dry cornbread from the conservatives at Fox News. So
It gotta be Fox. Fox is always involved somehow. It's always Fox.
The Bucks, they're ranked 23rd in the league in total offense. They average 313 yards per game. They're trending down. The Eagles are ranked 8th in the league in total offense. Average 304 yards per game. Trending down. Rush offense.
What's crazy is there's only 2 NFL teams that have had 0 injuries on the offensive line all season. One of them's the Bills. The other's the Buccaneers. Tristan Wirfs, Matt Filer. They have Ryan Jensen's replacement, the Notre Dame center Robert Hainsley, Cody Mock, and Luke Godecki. That offensive line started all 18 games, even with players injured in practice. So the Bills and the Buccaneers are the only NFL teams to go the entire season without an offensive line change. So last year, we had every team go through an offensive line change by week 6, with the only healthy offensive line being the Panthers. This was before McCaffrey got dealt to San Francisco. So, I mean, last year we had more offensive line turnover than this year. But with all the injuries we've had this year, it's been harder to predict games, which is nuts. Which is nuts. And what's crazy is Lisa, who's led Draft Utopia all year, she's got 189 games on the year. I think I had 190 last year to end the year after the Super Bowl. Wes had 190. I had 188. First year, I had the best NFL pick'em record in the country. So that's an insane amount of games to get correct when you take all the injuries and decisions into account when it comes to picking NFL games. So, I mean, the fact the Buccaneers have the healthiest offensive line outside of the Bills all year and they're dead last in running, what does that say? Does that say more about the Buccaneers offensive line, how it's mainly a pass blocking unit, or does that say more about Rachaad White? And maybe he's not the guy despite getting the opportunity to be the guy near the end of last year. I want your thoughts on that before we break down this game.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think Rachaad White has been more successful as a pass catcher than running in between the tackles, my personal opinion. I do think it's a mixture of both, what you're saying.
Yeah. Shaun, what do you think?
I think it's a mixture of both as well. And then on top of that, maybe he took the better play call. Especially if, like Emmanuel said, he's more suited to catch out of the backfield.
I love Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator, Dave Canales. He was the QB coach for Geno Smith when Seattle made the playoffs last year. So that's the big reason why I think Baker Mayfield has peaked this year. And let me tell you, if Canales gets a head coaching job and Baker gets paid, I think Baker's going to be next year's version of Daniel Jones or Daniel Jones. You heard it here first. I'm calling my shot right now. Use that as motivation, Baker. Put that chip on your shoulder and win. Make me look like an idiot. Do it, man. I'm challenging you and daring you because I want to see you succeed. I mean, Baker had like a can in his pocket during practice. It's like, are we going to get dry cornbread next week when you head to San Francisco? Come on, Baker. Slay's injured too. That's the only big injury. Darius Slay and Fletcher Cox were the 2 players injured for the Eagles. Their best corner, their veteran defensive tackle. Those are the 2 big injuries for the Eagles on defense that keep an eye on. If the Eagles are healthy, I think they win. But at the same time, if they're not, I think Tampa wins. That's why this is another tough game to pick. I've been saying that the NFC games are tougher to pick than the AFC for the most part. And,
Bucks are ranked 17th in the league in pass offense. They average 224.2 pass rush per game. So they've been pretty equal with that the last 3. Eagles are ranked 16th in the league in pass offense. They average 225.5 pass rush per game. They're trending down. Now, scoring defense. The Bucks are ranked 7th in the league in scoring defense. They allow 19.1 points per game, and they're trending up. The last 3 games, though, the Bucks have been number 1 in the league in scoring defense. The last 3 weeks.
The last 2 or 3 weeks, they got everybody back at full health. Carlton Davis, Vita Vea, Devin White. They had everybody back in week 17, even though they lost to the Saints. And then this week, they shut out the Saints, and they had most of their starters back in week 16. I think they got Vea back, and White was a game-time decision, didn't practice all week, and then I think he ended up playing. So I think the big reason why the Buccaneers defense has been amazing, they've been fully healthy the last 3 weeks and peaking at the right time. So Tampa wins. I think it will be due to the defense for that Buccaneers group. It reminds me of the defense they had a few years ago when Brady won it. They didn't have a good defense last year, and that's why Dallas was able to come in and steamroll them in Tom Brady's final start.
See, these two stats right here really devastating for the Eagles. So just scoring defense and total defense. The Eagles are ranked 30th in the league in scoring defense, which is bottom two.
Bottom three, actually, 32 teams. Yeah, but still awful.
25.2 points per game. It's trending down. Now, total defense for the Bucs are ranked 23rd in the league. They allow 344.2 yards per game, but they're trending up. But in the last 3 games, they've been number 2 in the NFL in total defense. Now, this is the kicker, Shaun. The Eagles, they're ranked 26th in the league in total defense. They allow 356.1 total yards per game. But the last 3 games, the Eagles have been bottom 2 in most yards per game allowed. That's all that.
It is awful. And it's true, the Eagles got Avonte Maddox back.
That right there
But
is the reason why I'm picking the Bucs to win this game. Shaun, that is bad. Now, I look at their numbers this game, they're giving up 400 yards a game. The last 3 games. That's pitiful. Rush defense. The Bucs are ranked 5th in the league in rush defense. They allow 95.3 rush yards per game, but they're trending up.
Yeah. I mean, that defense is good. Can't see this year's first rounder. He commanded triple teams at Pitt. So did Vita Vea. And then you got Logan Hall, William Golston. You can rotate between those two. You've got the 2 inside linebackers, Devin White, Levante David. And then you got Servacha Dennis and KJ Britt for depth at inside linebacker. Diaby took the starting edge rusher job from Joe Tryon. And you still have Shaq Barrett at full health. Barrett, remember, he tore his ACL in 2022 when the Buccaneers made the playoffs at 8 and 9. It was just a lot easier to pick apart Tampa Bay once Barrett went down. They added some depth at edge rusher. Barrett's been healthy this year. I think that's been the main difference between the Buccaneers this year compared to a year ago, and why we haven't seen a drop off. Because even though Brunting Murphy's gone, you got Jamel Dean as your number 2 corner to Dave Carlton Davis. He's actually outperformed Davis according to PFF. And then you've got Zion McCollum in the nickel. And then the safety tandem of you got the Seattle safety who signed with Tampa, Ryan Neal. But the big difference maker on that secondary has been Antoine Winfield Jr., 116 tackles, 5 deflections, 5 interceptions. He's just been a baller this year. He should have been in the Pro Bowl. I think he's the biggest Pro Bowl snub outside of maybe Jordan Love.
I agree with that.
I'm trying to figure out how Budda Baker got in over him.
Yeah, I don't know either. The Eagles are ranked 10th in the league in rush defense. They allow 103.4 rush yards per game, but they're trending down. Pass defense. The Bucs are ranked 29th. They allow 248.9 pass yards per game, but they've been trending up. But the last 3 games, the Bucs have been top 4 in the league in pass defense. Keep that in mind.
And I think that's largely due to the defense being fully healthy, because at the beginning of the year, Kancey missed like the first 6 or 7 games, and Buccaneers were up, down, and then you had Devin White, you had Carlton Davis out in the week 12-13. But the last 3 games, Buccaneers have had fully healthy defense on all 11 of their projected preseason starters have played, and they peaked at the right time.
Right. Pass defense, the Eagles are ranked 31st in the league in pass defense, which is bottom 2.
Yep.
They allow 215.7 pass yards per game, and they're trending up, which is a positive.
They changed their defensive coordinator too, I believe. I think they They sent their current defensive coordinator off to get some more whatever Philadelphia fans like. I'm not gonna make a cornbread joke, no matter how much you want me to. Maybe what do Eagles fans like? Cheesesteaks. Yes, they sent their defensive coordinator to get cheesesteaks, and Matt Patricia's taken the playbook. Then ever since their defensive coordinator's been out getting cheesesteaks, Matt Patricia's been calling the plays, and everything's going downhill for the Eagles. I just don't trust Patricia. His first game, he actually looked good against Seattle, but since then, it's just felt like it's gone all downhill. You know, they're losing games they're supposed to win. You're supposed to beat the Cardinals. You're supposed to beat the Giants on the road. You have the better roster. You have the better quarterback. Those are games you got to win.
And Matt Patricia pisses me off because what has this man done for you to bring him on and think he's going to improve our defense? Even Belichick didn't even want him in New England. What are we doing? Did we see what he did to the Lions after my man Caldwell did an amazing job and they brought him in after the Lions had a winning record?
Wasn't Patricia a co-offensive coordinator?
Yeah, he was a co-offensive coordinator with the special teams. He was. Yeah. Yeah. I don't trust Matt Patricia. I feel like Matt Patricia is such a liability that if you asked him to keep track of mail-in ballots for the election, he would probably steal the ballots to make sure the candidate he wants to win the election, whether it's Biden or Trump, wins the election. Not going to play politics or pick either side. I just feel like that's the kind of guy Matt Patricia is from a character standpoint, that if he were in charge of the mail-in ballots for our election, he would screw that up. I have utmost confidence. So Matt Patricia, if we have any mail-in ballot issues in Pennsylvania this fall, just remember Matt Patricia handed the election to candidate Biden or Trump. Not going to speculate who that is, but just saying, if we have another mail-in ballot controversy, it's Matt Patricia's fault. Thank you.
Turnover margin. The Bucs are ranked number 9th in the league in turnover margin at plus 0.5, and they're trending up. The Eagles, they're bottom 5 in the league in turnover margin. And Shaun, you don't tell the truth. This was their bread and butter when they made the run to the Super Bowl. Especially with Jalen Hurts.
Last year, they had no injuries on both sides of the ball, and they had two good coordinators.
Last year, the Eagles were number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We were the bully.
Exactly.
The Eagles were the bully. Right. Last year, y'all were number 1. We were the more physical team.
Yeah, last year last year's NFC Championship was like Angry Birds. You had Brock Purdy trying to destroy the evil pigs, and then he fails. Then the Eagles' defensive line starts laughing like the evil green pigs and Angry Birds. That was last year's NFC Championship in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed anything.
When I see how San Francisco beat us, I knew we had issues.
Yeah, ever since Drew Lock said to pick apart Bradbury, who was great in his first year at the Eagles, but has regressed significantly since. I mean, Bradbury. We respect Darius Slay, but we think Bradbury, somebody we could pick apart in coverage. That's what Drew Lock said in the Monday night press conference. I think NFL teams have adjusted and gone after Bradbury now, and with Slay injured, it's basically Bradbury. Keely Ringo's been the number 2 corner, and now that Maddox is back, Keely Ringo's still playing, but he's playing situationally. Well, actually, Maddox is only used in nickel situations, even though he's back. So it's been Keely Ringo getting a lot of the reps with Slay out. So, you know.
Bradbury has definitely has been disappointing this year. He's definitely regressed.
Yeah.
Exactly lying. You ain't lying.
I agree, but the Eagles are ranked bottom 5 in the league in turnover margin at negative 0.6, and they're trending down. Right now, they're at negative 1.4.
That's crazy.
And what turnover margin? That's dreadful.
Negative, and turnover margin.
And I remember when Hurts was the quarterback, and he was being talked last year MVP. Y'all were number one. I remember it to this day, Shaun.
And I'm going to touch on that soon, too.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'm going to finish this last stat. I'm going to let
Go ahead.
I'm going to let you go. Yeah. Penalties per game. The Bucs are ranked 20th in the league in penalties per game at 5.9, but they're trending up in a good way. Now, the positive for the Eagles on this one, on this stat, is they're ranked 12th in the league in fewest penalties per game at 5.6, but the last 3 games have been averaging less than 4 penalties per game, which is one of the few positives on this one. Besides that, in the pass defense, even though they're bottom 2, and the rush offense has gotten better in terms of them winning games, So we'll give them a little credit with that. But everything else is strength, especially this turnover margin, which is the biggest differential from last year to this year, truth be told. With that being said, Shaun, since this is your team, you go ahead and sound off, give me an X factor in this game and a prediction.
Gentlemen. First of all, let me start with my prediction. I still believe the Eagles are going to fly. I picked the Eagles 2023. I picked the Eagles 2023. 20-23 in this game. I still believe we can go ahead and fly, even though we will be on the road, number one. Number two, the X factors in this game. It's going to be tough. Our receivers are injured. Our running back Swift, he's been having a good season. But we need to see more. I think the X factor is honestly going to have to be the defense. The defense is going to have to be the X factor. I know guys have said Slay is injured. Even Gregory out there on Long Island. Cox is injured. David Carter, our rookie, our two dogs in Georgia, they need to get in shape, gentlemen. That's what that's about. You're not in shape. You're not in shape to where you prepare yourself for the latter part of the season and getting ready for the playoffs. So I believe our defense is going to have to come through. I believe our run game is going to have to come through. AJ Brown, I know he's injured, but I believe he's going to still play. I believe he's going to still give us free effort. Now let me go to Mr. Jalen Hurts. Gentlemen, the time is now for us to. I don't know if you guys joked about this about Jalen Hurts or whatever the case may be. The time is now for us to not call him a game changer. He's not. Jalen Hurts is not Pat Mahomes. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Josh Allen. Hell, he's not even C.J. Stroud. He's the type of quarterback to where he needs to have things around him for it to go perfect. Does most quarterbacks have to have that? Yes. But some quarterbacks need a system. Some quarterbacks are the system. Jalen Hurts is one that needs a system, which is why he lost in the Super Bowl last year. So the time has come for us to not expect all of this from him. That's the only reason why he was in MVP talk. It really was like you said, we were the bully. He was physical. He was dominating with his running and his passing. But when you take that running away and when you just try to keep him in the pocket, he struggles. He flinches a little bit. So I'm being very, very gracious. I still believe my Eagles are going to fly. I say we got out of there on the last second field goal, 2023.
Chris, what are your thoughts with this game?
All right. I like the Buccaneers defense. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I'm going to go 20-19. And I have Vita Vea making the game-winning fourth down stop, preventing. He becomes the first player to successfully stop the tush push. And his fourth down stop goes down in the history books as the tush mush. The tush mush. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Tampa Bay wins this game on a fourth down stop from Vita Vea where he prevents a tush-push touchdown at the end of the game, and it is the tush mush. Buccaneers 23, Eagles 19. The tush mush goes down in the history books, and Goodell's like, yes, now we can finally get rid of this tush push. He's got his thumb up. He's not saying yes, but he's like, yes. He's like the guy that thumbs up meme. Injury reports don't come out till tomorrow, so I gotta lean Tampa right now. If we find out Brown and Smith are healthy, yeah. 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 And look, this is pass defense, run defense, turnover margin, interception. These are all important statistics, but this is why I trust the depth charts over anything else, because those variables are like the stock market. They can go up and down any week, and you don't know what week they're going to go up, what week they're going to go down, and that's the whole purpose behind the parity in the NFL, or so you're indoctrinated to believe by the league. But if you study the team rosters each week, you can find the matchup advantages, and that's basically my line of specialty. Yeah. And the Buccaneers or Rams are underdogs. The Buccaneers, Rams, and Texans are all underdogs. So you got that balance of underdogs and favorites, but it's not the underdogs you think. So
versus Baker Mayfield. Yeah, because the defense has already been there and done that. The offense has already been there and done that. They won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. You know? So it really comes down to, who's going to have more points. Is it going to be Jalen Hurts or is it going to be Baker Mayfield? And I'm banking on Jalen Hurts to have more points in the important crucial moments for us to win the game. But we also have to lose a huge defensive coordinator matchup. Yeah. Bulls. Who had a great game plan against Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Let's not forget that. Yeah. And it was him and Patricia. Who is it in the defensive coordinator? I'll take top balls all day. Why you gotta do that, man? Why you gotta do that? Hey, why you gotta remind us we got Patricia if they have top balls?
the Buccaneers have two defensive coordinators, Casey Rogers and former Steeler middle linebacker Larry Foote. But I believe it is I believe it is Bowles who calls the plays as head coach. I also think the Buccaneers have the offensive coordinator advantage with Dave Canales versus the Eagles offensive coordinator, who is just not the play caller that Steichen was. I mean, he was a good quarterbacks coach, but he's not the play caller Steichen was. Yeah, I mean, the reason the Jaguars didn't win the AFC South is simple. They have depth chart in that division when fully healthy, but honestly, I think they have the third best coach in that division with Doug Peterson. It's not Peterson's play with Press Taylor. The offense was a lot more predictable this year. Get the ball to run the ball, bleed the clock, get the ball to Calvin Ridley when Christian Kirk and Zay Jones are injured. It's a lot more predictable down the stretch, and I think teams figured that out, and Jacksonville just couldn't adapt. Yet they're keeping their offensive line coach. They're keeping their coordinator. They're letting their quarterbacks coach, running backs coach go, even though Etienne rushed for 1,000 yards with a bad interior offensive line that dealt with injuries. And they're letting their running backs coach. I don't know. I don't get what Jacksonville's doing, to be honest. Some of these moves they're making at coach, as far as coaching, are kind of puzzling to me. I mean, my co-host lives in Jacksonville, so I gotta not disrespect the Jaguars because he's gonna defend them even if they make a terrible business decision. But I've been saying for a few years I don't trust Balky with his drafts. I think Balky's had drafts, and that caught up to Jacksonville this year. I thought it would catch up to them in 2025 or 2026, but it caught up to them this year. But I think that says more about the coaching with DeMeco Ryans and Steichen than it does with Peterson. And Stingley's been healthy. He's the other cornerstone piece. Exactly. And here's the thing. When they hired the defensive coordinator, they hired the Cardinals defensive line coach. Why? J.J. Watt. Yeah, after DeMeco Ryans got hired, he brought in J.J. Watt as a consultant, and J.J. told him to hire the Cardinals defensive line coach as his coordinator. He actually listened to J.J. Watt. So I credit J.J. Watt for turning the Texans around. This right here proves that J.J. Watt is qualified to be an NFL general manager. I mean, that move right there. I think so. But I don't know if he wants to re-enter the NFL as an executive. But yeah, agreed. But
I think he has a lot of people respect him within the league and the career. So I feel like he has those type of connections with people. So I hear you coming from, Sean, in regards to him becoming an NFL insider. Plus, you kind of tell the other networks are letting him,
yeah, he had a Rocket Power t-shirt on at Pat McAfee's show today. I did. I saw it when I was having lunch for my birthday. He was on Pat McAfee today. He was. J.J. Watt. He was on Pat McAfee's show in a Rocket Power t-shirt, and Pat McAfee and A.J. Hawk were interviewing him. I thought it was T.J. Watt at first because it looked like T.J. Watt. Then the screen said J.J. Watt. And I looked really silly for giving TJ the benefit when it was JJ working covert that whole time.
He said that if you're a general manager and you pass on Lamar Jackson, you should be fired. Which, in a way, that's a legit point. Two-time MVP. Exactly.
half of the denial. See, the league was still trying to stay in the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady
pocket QB mode. Because at this time, Allen was a rookie. Mahomes was an unknown. We didn't know what Mahomes was. Mahomes transcended. Allen transcended. Lamar transcended. And then at that point, the league pivoted.
Once they started seeing Lamar, once Lamar got on the scene, and once he started doing what he did, start getting in the team, and once Pat Mahomes started doing it, and Josh Allen started running people over, now everybody got to pay attention. They were trying to still stay into the pocket pass and drop back mode. Those days are over.
Yep.
Players are too athletic, too fast, and too strong.
And they're getting more advanced, at throwing at different angles. So I don't know if you guys pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Pat Mahomes is a baseball player. Right. Baseball players always make great quarterbacks. Right. So, the league got to give it time. Now, it's undeniable. You see, now after that, I believe it's the first pick a couple years after that. What was it, Kyler Murray? Yeah. Kyler Murray, yeah. Now the undeniable starts. Right. You got Joe Burrow, Bryce Young. Right. C.J. Stroud. Right.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Herbert. You had Jordan Love go. All those quarterbacks all went in the first 2 rounds of the 2020 draft. It's crazy because you had the 3 Senior Bowl QBs, like I was telling Matt earlier, and then you had Burrow and Tua both go in the top 5. And all those QBs have panned out. Every one of those first 5 QBs from that draft.
I don't know if you know, Shaun, Chris interviewed Jalen Hurts in the Senior Bowl before he got drafted.
I got to interview Herbert and Jordan Love, too, that week. It's incredible. I accidentally snuck down near the press conference area where the teams were practicing before media day because I didn't know where the media day was people were supposed to go. So I accidentally snuck into the behind the scenes area where the Bengals were coaching Herbert and Hurts, and Hurts kept fumbling it, and Herbert looked good, looked refined. So I got that behind the scenes stuff. Look, I wasn't supposed to be that area, but I didn't know where I was supposed to go. I was kind of lost. It was my first Senior Bowl, so it's pretty cool behind the scenes story. And I asked Herbert about that, and yeah, they were just teaching him about snap techniques and stuff, but nothing. They really weren't doing anything indoors at the time. Yeah, I got the Access Hollywood treatment in Mobile that year. I'm joking when I say Access Hollywood because I got the behind the scenes VIP treatment. I wasn't supposed to, but it was by accident. I mean, there's some media reporters, not going to name them, that they're not actually supposed to go into the player interview room, but they sneak in anyway, even though they're media and they're not like players, scouts, coaches. They sneak into that area and they get interviews with the players. I could do an entire podcast of Senior Bowl experiences, but we don't have time for that. We got to break down this game. We got to break down the divisional. We got to break down our conference title and Super Bowl picks, and we'll do that. But first, the segment you've all been waiting for, folks. Which team will get NFL dry cornbread? We will spin the wheel one time before we pivot to our conference title picks, and I'm officially spinning. Oh, the Chiefs! The Chiefs are getting dry cornbread according to the spinner has picked the Chiefs to get dry cornbread this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. And Jake from State Farm's like, yes! Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes dry cornbread commercial. Yes! Maybe he throws it in the trash can, and like Kelsey and Taylor Swift, they decide to eat the cornbread out of the trash can on a date. And it's like a State Farm ad. I'm kidding, by the way. They're both amazing. Far more talented than I'd ever be. I'm kidding, by the way. But yeah. Freaking, I'm surprised. I just did this for fun. I didn't think the wheel would land on the Chiefs. I just think it's kind of hilarious that that's how the spinner turned out because it's random. You got 14 teams. I put the Ravens and Niners on the spinner, and it came down to the Dolphins and Chiefs, and the Chiefs ended up winning the spinner. I just think that's pretty hilarious. It's just random. It's chance, right? That was fun though, but yeah. Let's talk about our conference title picks, our Super Bowl picks, and then we'll sign off because I know it's getting late, and I appreciate Emmanuel having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, no problem. All right, I got Cowboys and 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And for the AFC, it's kind of chalk. I got Buffalo and Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. And I said it before the season started. I had 49ers and Ravens in the Super Bowl. I'm sticking to it. I got Ravens winning it all. Call me a homer. I don't care. What do you got, Shaun?
You know what? The same in the NFC. I got Cowboys and 49ers for the NFC Championship. And I have the Ravens versus the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Championship. I have the Cowboys versus the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
And here's how that scenario happened. Since Shaun picked the Dolphins to beat the Chiefs earlier, the Dolphins would head to Baltimore, which means the Browns would head to Kansas City, logistically. The Browns would head to Buffalo. They'd head to Buffalo, and then the Browns beat Buffalo, and then the Ravens beat the Dolphins for clarity purposes for our audience. Unless the Chiefs or Bills lays an egg. If one of those teams lays an egg, that team heads to Baltimore. The Dolphins or Steelers would head to Baltimore, and Cleveland would head to Kansas City or Buffalo, pending. But since Shaun picked the Dolphins and the Browns, that means the Dolphins head to Baltimore for a rematch, and the Browns would head to Buffalo. Yeah. Yeah. I've got the opposite, same teams as Emmanuel, but I've got the opposite teams winning. In fact, the Rams are my only road team in the first two rounds of the playoffs. But I have the Bills winning the AFC Championship in Baltimore, and I've got the Cowboys beating the Niners in a rematch of week 5 on Sunday Night Football. And karma catching up to the Niners for wearing that F Dallas T-shirt. So I do have the Cowboys and Bills in Super Bowl 58. So far, the all-time championship series between Dallas and Buffalo is 3-0. Dallas beat the Bills in 2 Super Bowls, but the Dallas Stars defeated the Sabres to win the 1999 Stanley Cup. Game 6, Hull scored on Hasek. So that was the first Stanley Cup I watched as a kid, by the way. So yeah, that's how I know Dallas has beaten Buffalo in 3 championships. And they're about to do it one more time. Jerry Jones is going to celebrate. Yeah. All right. I do think if the Ravens make the Super Bowl, they could potentially win it because I've heard Baltimore's going to lose Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans next year. So if the Ravens make it, it would make sense for them to win this year. So they're playing to repeat next year, and then they end up getting knocked out by the NFC champion next year. That would just make more logistical sense if that's the case. And yeah, you're all for that. 2 Super Bowls for the Ravens. You're all for that. And it was the power outage game. That was the power outage game. Yep. It was the power outage Super Bowl. Yep. Also, it's the first Super Bowl Tom Brady's calling next year on Fox since they're going to replace Greg Olsen with Tom Brady in 2024. And Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl in New Orleans. So he's going to be calling his first Super Bowl in New Orleans where his Super Bowl career began. It's 2/11's your birthday. You share the same birthday with inventor Thomas Edison. That's amazing. That is amazing. Same woman who fired Mike Vrabel. She called it off. So I got a plot twist here. Mike Vrabel takes a defensive coordinator job in Baltimore if Mike McDaniel gets hired as a head coach, the former Michigan defensive coordinator. If he gets hired as a head coach, Vrabel takes a defensive coordinator job with Harbaugh, and then he becomes a head coach with Henry after maybe getting a Super Bowl appearance. I don't know. Just speculation. I think Vrabel's good enough to be a head coach for New England or a number of these teams. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm probably gonna use the wheel more frequently for like news. Because we're debuting a new segment on the podcast called The Wheel of News. We've got Nick Saban retiring, Pete Carroll, Jesper Wallsted's debut, Morant's injury, Cubs injury, FC Cincinnati loses their striker Brandon Vasquez, Mike Vrabel fired, Michigan crushes Washington. So basically, we're going to spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on, that's going to be the leading topic. That's going to be And if our audience likes that, we're going to make that the norm moving forward, because the wheel of news, it sounds like fun. It sounds like chance. You don't know what it's going to land on. And then you can just talk about that topic and have fun with it. And we can do that for free agency and other stuff on my live stream when I call into this show. So there's lots of fun ideas we can pitch down the road. But yeah, it's getting late. I appreciate you and Shaun. You can go to the YouTube channel, Draft Utopia, like, subscribe, share the videos. Any love is appreciated here on my 33rd. Well, technically, it's no longer my 33rd birthday. I am 33 and 1 days old. I think I was born in the morning on January 10th, but still. It's 12:09 a.m. It's technically the 11th now, so technically I'm 34 and 1 days old by 9 minutes at the present moment. Thank you. Thank you. But it's just been a crazy day. Saban retiring, just so much chaos. And I know my co-host is going to want to get into rants on certain topics, but we're just going to spin the wheel and see where it lands, because there's just so many topics to cover in all the professional sports, and we're not going to get through all of them before the Browns-Texans game unless we just knock out one topic at a time and have fun with it instead of just going in a certain order like we usually do. So I'm going to test this thing out on Saturday. I tested it out with the dry cornbread. It landed on the Chiefs. I did not expect that, but that's how it goes sometimes.
All right, Shaun, go ahead and plug in with your socials. You can find me on Instagram at Sean Perignon, Sean Perignon, if you want a more clear way how to spell it, Perignon. And you can also find me on Twitter at Mighty Hula. I definitely share all my sports thoughts and complaints and gripe with everything in the world that has to do with Lakers. So, yeah, it's part of y'all. Yes, and I plan on hopefully next week we can do a recap of these games. Yes, and sometime next week, Chris, you jump for it.
I'll try to stay awake for it. I know I've got to go to Boston in a few weeks for me and my older brother. We're going to Scout Macklin Celebrini on the 27th, but I think I can do something next week. I might be busy the week after because, I did enroll in a class on how to build a YouTube channel, but the courses are during the day. So maybe we can do something the week after, but let's just play it 1 week at a time and see how we feel.
Twitch, Soundcloud at Sports Head Radio as well. Another social media. On Snapchat. I don't really get Snapchat like that. But I don't think nobody does. Yeah, I don't really go on Snapchat like that. But yeah, you guys go ahead and follow me on there. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna try to post some more TikTok videos. I'll probably post my predictions on there. I'll probably do a quick video on it. And post it on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for joining in. You guys, this podcast is posted tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. So keep a lookout.
Live stream's already up tonight. I did do a live stream, but the visuals, like who gets the who I've got winning each wild card game. These are just rough drafts. They're not final. The final results will be unveiled on Saturday's show on YouTube, on TalkShoe. But, if you want to see the replay of the dry cornbread, that will be up in just a few minutes as soon as I end the stream. That will be officially up, and you can see us spin the wheel. You can go to the 142, 143 mark. I don't know the exact mark. You're going to have to go there, but I promise you it's around that range. If you want a replay of that brutality. And there's other things we can talk about as well, which just been a lot of fun. So thanks, guys, making my birthday one to remember.